Hey, I'm back, and we're going to be doing episode 2. This is going to be using Procreate with a reference photo. Here's the reference photo I have picked out. So I'll be switching back and forth with the different camera angles. So let's get started. First thing we'll be doing here is we'll be double tapping the screen and it'll bring up these different options that you've been using. Photos at the bottom, you'll be dragging this over on top of the Procreate and bring it over to the side. This is going to allow you to use your reference photo that we're going to be. I like to use the painting brushes and more specifically the oil paint. So this is the brush I'll be using. To get a good frame of reference, let's just back it up. And we'll go pretty small here, and we'll start with just doing the darker spots. Right here with the darker colors on the reference photo, and just get a nice base going. So now we're going to move it to a more medium tone color, such as the blue that's surrounding the darker background blue. So we'll bring it to more of a mid-tone. So I'm going to freeze it right here. I actually forgot to mention this. Make a mirrored image of what you are using as a reference photo. You're going to be using this and flipping it constantly so you can keep your eyes not adjusted to the photo. So what I'm going to do now is actually switch over to our mirrored image. So now that we have our mirrored image, what we're going to be doing is flipping our actual painting. So go over here to the cursor, hit the little flip horizontally, and then we'll be able to compare to see if that's actually what she's looking like scaling wise. So you got some reds that are actually right there, and just a reddish hue, a reddish tint. You got a little red right there, little red in her face, and just the slightest little redness on the inside of her arm, on the bottom of her forearm, and even on her collarbone right there. So now we're going to be flipping the photo here. This is going to help adjust our eyes. So now we can see whether or not she's scaled correctly. You know, you can see towards the forehead, it might have been off a little bit, but that's okay. We're just getting a framework here. So start working from this angle here. You're going to want to keep it flipped so your eyes don't stay too adjusted to the original. In this case, you know, it's similar to when you look in the mirror and you're used to that image of yourself, and then you see a front-facing image when you take that picture on your camera and you realize, oh wow, I don't see how this looks like me. It's everything else is exaggerated, and that's what's going to happen here when you look at the flipped version. So keep it this way and start working. Something I learned in an oil painting class actually was take the colors you're using and bring it around the painting. It'll really help piece it together. And here we're going to flip it back over. You don't want to get too used to looking at the same picture, so flipping it's going to help your eyes see the differences. Flipping it now, you can even start to see where I didn't bring the face in a little bit more. And like I said, this is going to help your eyes train in general to scale over time. So I'm going to be picking a purplish color here for the shadow on the back of her arm and behind her neck, right where her hair and skin tone meets on the left side of the picture that we're looking at currently. This is going to be where we're going to want to start drawing the shadows. So a purple is typically a shadow color on skin tones. Once I feel like I am starting to get some color in her face, I'm going to start moving to the details within the face, and this will help me scale where her features are. And once you get the scaling for the face correct, you're going to want to scale the rest of the proportions off of where you scaled the face. So once I have a framework for the dark spots on her face, I start to build off a more medium tone here. So grabbing a reddish color, which is kind of what's looking like it's missing here. Now that we have some medium tones, some lighter tones on the face, and a little bit of shadows, I'm going to start bringing it darker. I mean, we're getting an idea of where her features are. Let's start bringing the darkness in and let it kind of flow on the areas that you see darker colors, now that we have an idea of how the scaling was in general. So the paintings are looking a little flat at the moment in terms of medium tones. It doesn't have many highlights or colors that are pretty deep. So in my type of paintings, I really like to try to bring in some more color. As you can see in the reference, we got some nice turquoise, some lighter or brighter purples, some brighter even blues there around the edge of the background. So I'm going to be bringing more color into this now that we have a framework for the other tones that we have. So I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking it looks a little funny. I agree. It looks funny at the moment. So now we're going to start working on details. The more details you start working on, the less you can start screwing with the details. In other words, you don't want to mess with details once you start laying them down. So be sure that you're getting the scaling correctly and then start trying to get a framework for the details. So if you notice that I'm using the eyedropper tool to pick up different colors, it's because I already have a lot of colors laid down on the face. So I might as well start grabbing them and incorporating them in different areas. So use the eyedropper tool, grab different parts of what you've already put down on the paper or the pad, and start bringing it to other areas in the painting. Now here comes the fun part. The eyes are the most important part of this painting because you want to make sure you scale the eyes correctly. Getting the color down first of her eyes, which is a turquoise-ish color, getting it down will kind of help you see if you scaled it correctly, see if you put it in the correct spot, and once you flip, you'll know if you got the eyes wrong. Also, adding the white highlight at the very end helps you realize, okay, it looks like she's looking at me. Important to give yourself some breaks because when you come back, you'll see what you might have missed the first time around. So coming back, you know, I can see how her smile is a little bit off there. I can see her nose needs to come down a little bit. You know, you start really seeing features that would help. So take breaks. So here I'm working on her mouth and her teeth. This is a really, really difficult part of drawing because if you want to make sure you're not just using white. However, if you use too many colors, it starts to look like the person does not have clean teeth. And you also want to make sure you're using darker colors to contrast where her mouth is and what the shape is around her teeth. It's probably one of the hardest parts, I think, of painting in general. So a lot of people think the hair is a difficult portion to draw, and I to be honest, with the oil brush, it kind of paints itself with the way the strokes work. So what I've been doing here is getting a lot of base colors down, such as darks or mid-tones, and you'll just keep layering oil strokes on top of the darker colors. So you'll get a dark color down, and then you'll want to get a lighter color down, maybe a blondish color, and start making almost hair-like strokes. And it's all about the pressure and the weight and how hard you push down and how you taper off, and however detailed you want to get with the hair, it's up to you, but it's an enjoyable part. Like I said, you're going to want to use the lightest colors at the end or the darkest colors at the end. It kind of brings the pop out, and it also brings the darker shadows in. You want to get a nice contrast between the lights and the darks. I save it for the end because it's almost that finishing touch on the piece. what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab that turquoise green. Let's lighten this quite a bit. Here we go. In the bottom left corner here where it's darker. I hope you all enjoyed the first episode. Later in other episodes, I'd be happy to go over any techniques, details, anything that I might have missed on this episode. So please like, subscribe, follow all my accounts here, and I look forward to making more projects with you. Thank you and have a good one.